Corbyn, Sultana look like they're setting up a new political party. Reform on the right. Advance UK, a second political party on the right, and another movement. What is going on with these new political parties starting? Assalamu alaikum and welcome. This is the only way up. It seems as though the days of two party politics in the UK and a lot of the Western world is over. Why is this happening?
Yes, Agam Shani. Very simple. Politicians for a long time just do not represent the sentiments of the masses. They are there to serve the 1%, they're there to serve themselves, they are there to misinform the public. And people have had enough. And people are turning to all sorts of unorthodox characters, former celebrities, former reality TV stars, former sportsmen. Across the world, you can see people have come to power. In fact, now, if you don't have a background in politics, that actually serves you well. In fact, if you are a long-term politician, it will probably work against you. The other thing that's actually going on is, if you take the example of the UK, you've had two political parties that have dominated the political spectrum. They alternate in power. And what people can see is really when it comes to the main policies, they don't change. If you look at public investment, if you look at the economy, is always going to be about deregulation and the market. Public welfare needs to be reduced and cut. You find foreign policy is largely imperial and backing a national interest. So you find whether it's the Labour Party or the Tory Party, on the main policies, they remain the same. People voted out just over a year ago. The public voted out the Tory Party. They were absolutely hated after nearly 2 decades of austerity. And what's Labour done? Labour's come in, actually continued with most of their policy, despite saying otherwise. So what people can see is really there's one political party, and what happens is the leader changes, whether it's Tories or Labour. However, so this development, in one way, it shows you where the system is. Is people are not happy and they feel the system doesn't serve them. However, can these parties really crack the system? And can they really serve the people? Now, you've got to keep in mind that the system really is designed to keep alternative parties out. So the closest we really had were the Lib Dems, who again were in a coalition government, and they ruled the day they entered into the coalition government. So what you find is people like Jeremy Corbyn, Zahra Sultana, and even many other individuals, they are few in number, but even when they come together, they're really on the sidelines shouting in. And I think people need to understand that there's an assumption here that the system can work with the right individuals. But you've got to bear in mind the system's rigged. It requires a lot of money. This money actually is what poisons the system. It poisons the Western systems generally. And the fact that you need to get elected every 4 to 5 years, it basically means you don't really work for what you want to. You've got to work for what's popular. And what's popular, it costs money. And at the same time, not everyone in society is the same. Those with more capital have more of a say and can make a difference than those who don't have capital. And so that's why the 1%, they generally represent those who have capital, those who have large business, those who are landowners. They have more of a say over policy. And in fact, these people, you find a lot of the politicians really come from amongst them. So I wouldn't hold my breath. I've been around long enough where many protest parties turned up. They did well at local elections, they did well in one election, but they were never able to consolidate that and make a change to the overall system. But what it does show us is that people are unhappy. People feel the system doesn't represent them. The system doesn't really represent their sentiments, and this is why a lot of politicians are finding that maybe going it alone is a better option for them.
Yeah, and I think one thing's for certain is that obviously Britain and Western Europe, France, they really got a lot of dividends from America post Second World War, the Marshall Plan, all the financial access to their markets and the currencies. And secondly, was they benefited hugely from the lands that they were exploiting, their colonial lands, their colonial links, their colonial subservience that they left behind. and now obviously America's turned their back on Europe, so doesn't want to deal with them, won't pay for their defense, and secondly, the colonial chains have been broken with France and Britain and Western Europe, and this great uh, thinking that it was masterful economics, masterful economic policies, fiat currency, interest rates, bonds, treasuries, all these items. It was seen as the cause of the great economic success of Western Europe is shown to be false, and this is what's causing the rise of these left and right groups. And will they be able to deliver any change? I can't see much change really happening. It's the same old policies. One policy may get more airtime, get more emphasis, adjusting interest rates, changing trade deals, but the basic principles are the same. And will they make will they make any meaningful difference? I can't see it. Unfortunately, I can't see it.
Yeah, so we're going through this period at the moment where there is a big disconnect between the political class and the masses. And what you find, the political class are responding in different ways to ensure the underlying system remains in place, but still the public have some hope. So that's why you've got Donald Trump, he's got his MAGA support base. And what you're finding is that politics is really becoming about individual personalities now. It's not really about parties and policies now, it's about individuals, your messiah, savior type character. And that's why you're finding that outsiders actually seem to do very well in this system because they promote themselves as anti-establishment. But what you find is, on the whole, on the key policies, they don't really change much. On the other hand, even individuals who want to change things, they struggle because they don't have a majority and they are one-man show. As a result, the system's really stacked against them. So in many ways, a lot of the personalities we're getting now, in some ways, it's a pressure valve. It's a way for people to let off steam because they feel the system doesn't work for them. But remember, Donald Trump's now in his second term. How much of the underlying system in America has changed? If you look across in France, across Europe, how much of the underlying system, you've had a few changes in some policies. On the main policies, nothing's really changed. And I think it's important people need to see that, it's not just politicians, the whole setup is actually the problem. And I don't think we're there yet. What people see, there is a problem, and the debate seems to be around personalities for the moment. But as people's lives don't improve, as things get worse, it's natural people will start talking about, okay, we've changed faces, but things don't seem to have changed. And I think that will inevitably lead to more deeper discussions about the system.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, whatever political party comes in, I think there's some red lines that the establishment and the parliament won't allow to be crossed, and that is the wealth of the elite. Even reform is like crying tears of millionaires are leaving. We have to do everything. We have to roll out the red carpet for them. They are saviors, and they have to be treated with kid gloves, treated well, and things like this. And the discussion about wealth tax, every time it raises head, it's just shown as unpractical, unrealistic, not going to work, doesn't have a positive effect. So these red lines are for the elite and for these corporates to make sure that they are absolutely secure, and their assets and their wealth is saved. And then beyond that, there is very little to play with. What is left? And I think that is the big question. Aspirationally, the political parties may say very positive things, but in real terms, unless these red lines aren't broken, or actually we need to start again, why is it that the wealth is held by the elite so much? Why is it they can just move it around at the click of a finger? Why is it that the legal system framework is made like that? Unless these questions aren't challenged, then it's just going to be of nice aspirations, nice words, nice ambitions, very, very little that can be done within the current setup and the current working of the establishment. Leave us your thoughts and comments below. Jazakallah khair for listening. Thank you. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.